Member for St. James North.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I rise to intervene in this debate on the proceeds of and instrumentalities of crime bill, and of course rise to express my full support for this bill. This bill, sir, is part of the regime of legislation that this new government of Barbados, of which I'm a proud member, has brought to this Parliament over the last 10 months that we have been in office, trying to seek better transparency, accountability and governance in this country, something that was completely lacking in the 10 years, 4 months previous to our coming into office. We, on the second day of Parliament, second day that this Parliament sat, brought before this Parliament the Integrity in Public Life Bill. We then in November, sir, debated in here on the Public Accounts Committee report on the National Housing Corporation, which showed tremendous infelicities, to use that word, sir, at a diplomatic level, but thievery, sir, in real Barbadians terms, in government, in the governance of the last administration and among at least 3 of the ministers, sir, and their cronies. We then in December, sir, brought the Financial and Audit Management Act. I'm in the public service, sir. Passed that in this Parliament at the end of last year. We are now bringing this piece of legislation. Sir, as the last member who spoke, the Honourable Member for Christchurch East spoke, this is a relatively new update in the legislative armament of parliaments globally to try and strengthen the institutions and culture in their respective countries in terms of the fight against money laundering, the fight against drug trafficking, the fight against corruption in high places, the fight against criminality, and to use the term used in this bill, sir, unlawful conduct. It is not, though, the first of its kind in Barbados, sir. It in fact abolishes the Proceeds of Crime Act, Chapter 143, which was passed in this Parliament almost 30 years ago in 1990. That act, sir, has now been effectively nullified through the process of time. A lot of developments have taken place over the last 30 years in terms of technology alone, sir. And crime has become more sophisticated. So you need every now and then to look at your laws and reform them. Of course, sir, we've had money laundering legislation passed in this Parliament. You've had other legislation, sir, Money Laundering and Financing of Terrorism Act passed in 2011. You've had the Criminal Assets Recovery Fund Act passed in 2016, sir. Some of these acts, sir, you don't even remember that they were passed under the previous administration, because as the Honourable Member for Christchurch East just said, and I believe the Honourable Attorney General, sir, not one prosecution, do you recall, having been made by the authorities under those acts. After all, sir, the last Prime Minister said that you can't legislate morality. He took a blind eye to the corruption which was all around him, and of course, which he presided over cabinet, sir. So he took the, you know him, sir, ancient philosophy all the time. You know, he ran a country by way of ancient history, or rather lacked running a country, and he spoke from the philosophical point of view that you can't legislate morality, sir, but as the Honourable Member for St. Peter said, the law is a significant and fundamental part of any society, sir. It's the basis of it, and you can't run from it, sir. And while, yes, the law will have its defects and challenges, you have to have some legal basis on which to go after crime and criminal activity and unlawful conduct. And that is what we are here doing today, sir, to advance this cause. Because as has been said continuously today during this debate, also, sir, by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, individuals must not in this society be allowed to benefit from the proceeds of their crime. Cannot, sir. It cannot be fair to the people of this country who work hard every day, who pay taxes, sir, who've had to make sacrifices over the last few years, who have been part of a country that in May had become the third most indebted country in the world, sir, at 170% gross domestic debt to GDP, sir, and nothing to show for it over the 10 years, 4 months of Democratic Labour Party authority. Not one thing to show for it, sir. No buses bought. Let's get to basics, sir. As has been said, and as the Honourable Member for St. Peter and Honourable Member for Christchurch, he spoke to, sir, because we have to relate any piece of legislation that is brought before this Parliament to the people who we represent, sir. The people who we represent, sir, 10 years, 4 months of Democratic Labour Party regime, carrying this country to the third worst off country in the world in terms of debt, lowering our status, lowering our economy, our society, sir. Nothing to show for it. Not one bus bought, sir. Not one transport board bus bought. The Honourable Member for Christchurch West, the Honourable Member for St. Lucie, sir, having all-day session yesterday on the challenges of the public transport system, sir. Not one garbage truck bought, sir, in those 10 years, and the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, sir, facing challenges every day because of that issue, sir. The roads, as we heard in this Parliament during the estimates debate, 70% of them in a state of disrepair, sir. Hardly any repaired, but I thank the Lord Almighty and I thank my colleague ministers in the Ministry of Transport that Westmoreland Road, sir, in my constituency, within the last 5 days has now been repaired, sir, and you drive over it smoothly. I drive over it smoothly coming from home up to this morning. I turn to the left, to the right, sir, to go to the Wim and Baker, sir, and that road is well repaired now, sir. So these have fundamental aspects in the daily living of our constituents, sir. And therefore, when corruption and criminality and, as this bill says, unlawful conduct presides across the length and breadth of a country with the connivance and collusion and involvement of the political class, sir, a Parliament, as it is doing today, has the responsibility, sir, to legislatively intervene to try to prevent that, sir. And that is why this bill goes back 20 years, sir. 20 years into it under Section 106, where recovery orders can be made in respect of any recoverable property obtained through unlawful conduct, sir. And I said, I know, sir, now that There are some who have benefited under the last regime that cribbling in the shoes right now, sir, as we speak today. I say, sir, as has been said repeatedly today, if you are honest, you have nothing to fear. If you earn an honest dollar, you're not worried. But, sir, if you know that some of your wealth now was gained through corrupt means and practices, sir, through bribery, you have need to fear, sir. This government has repeatedly, through the Honorable Prime Minister, through the Honorable Attorney General, asked those who were involved in corrupt practices to come forward and give evidence. Those who know that they in some way bribed people, whether it is to bring in goods through the port that may have been intermingled with guns, with weapons, with drugs, whether it is those who bribed, sir, or paid politicians, sir, to get contracts, which were then inflated to, according to one minister in the last government, top up the minister's purse. They have been given the opportunity now, through legislative means, to go and report what they did to the Office of the Attorney General, who is the authority under this bill. Sir, they have been given that opportunity, and we are here calling on them, sir, to today, tomorrow, next week, go and give statements to the relevant authority, the Office of the Attorney General, on what they did in terms of bribing officials, politically exposed persons, what they did that their common sense knows was unlawful conduct. And as was said by the Attorney General, Honorable Attorney General, the member for St. Joseph's earlier on, the people talk, you know, there's a small society. And these people, business people, in a lot of cases who were involved in bribery of politically exposed persons in the 10 years, 4 months under the last government, sir, talk. When they're in the social gatherings, they talked. In fact, they laughed at those politicians, sir. None of whom now, because none of them are of any use to them, sir. None of them, they would take the phone calls now. None of them can call any of those persons who they received ill-gotten gains from now and ask for anything, because there's no use for them. They used to laugh at them and talk in their social clubs and gatherings, and when they might have been playing their golf or whatever, sir, it isn't worth it to be involved in that kind of behavior, sir. I mean, the honorable member for St. Philip West spoke about persons who may be academically bright and therefore they get into the professions, and through getting into the professions they are then able to rise to political success for a time being, sir, but they have no character. That is true, sir. We were exposed in this parliament, sir, the last occasion, to that kind of character. But there are also those who feel that a political career is a means of monetary success, sir. They would tell you so, man. Yeah. They used to tell you that. Some of those who ran for the Dems, some successful too, that, you know, this is a means, and, you know, we could become rich through this. So therefore, people, sir, who could not write a proper check, but it can bounce all over the floor, sir, before 2008, or people who were running from the bank, sir. And some of them, sir, got judgments against them when they were ministers of government, because I happened, sir, about this time last year. In fact, it was during the estimates debate, sir, that I brought in a judgment, sir, registered in January 2013 against a minister of government at the time.
Present minister.
Pardon, sir?
Former minister.
Former minister. Minister of government at the time,
Okay,
sir.
please.
At that time, sir.
Okay.
A year ago. In fact, sir, he is no longer here. I would never see him here again, sir, due to the speaker, sir, who presides over this parliament, sir. I mean, this is a matter of record, sir. I made it a document to the House, sir. Made it. The Speaker of this present House, because of the Speaker of this present House, sir, he will never see the Speaker, because of the Speaker of this present House.
Yeah.
No. Because the Speaker of this present House, that individual who the Speaker of this present House beat, would never see the inside of this parliament again, sir. Had a registered judgment against him, sir, when he was a minister of government. I'm not talking about the previous speaker, sir. The previous speaker, that is another ball game, sir. That is another story, sir. I mean, they're the kind of people that we had in this parliament, sir. Someone said that I had to call your honor, sir. And the truth is, the public, sir, used to tell me about Eddie. I mean, I can see you really don't have any respect for that individual from the tone of your voice when you address him. And I would tell them, sir, well, sir, how could I respect someone who carried away $200,000 plus and got a judgment registered against him, against a person with a disability, sir, an old man, sir? I mean, really and truly, that is not in my DNA, sir. So, I mean, sir, this is, all of that is part of what we are doing today, sir. Has to be part of it, sir. And you know, sir, that is why, sir, the Honorable Attorney General has been correct in putting in a section 56, for example, where hearsay evidence shall not be excluded on the ground that it is hearsay in proceedings of a restraining order. That is why, sir, you have section 127 of the bill where assets recovered, sir, are to be first applied, yes, in making any payment of legal expenses in recovering it. Secondly, in paying or reimbursing any reasonable costs incurred in storing or insuring the forfeitable property. But third, sir, to be paid into the Criminal Assets Recovery Fund for the benefit of the taxpayers, people, and citizens of this country, sir. Because it can't be fair that people of the description that I just spoke of, sir, must get the benefit of the proceeds of their crime. The big castles, sir, that you see around Barbados and that were on social media. The 5 or 6 luxury cars, sir, that they used to drive in here on a Tuesday, sir, that used to be parked in the yard out there. The Mercedes, the Lexus, the BMW, and others, sir, Jaguars, sir, or the yachts, sir. I ain't even talking about that, Trav. I mean, but you know, and you had 2 ministers in here, sir, trying to justify how they're driving these 5-star BMWs that were $400,000 on the salary that they earn, sir, which, as the Honorable Attorney General said, sir, is It's essentially meager, sir, because we earn in what way it is now, sir. And you're living from month to month, sir. First time in my life, sir, I'm living from month to month. Because I no longer can practice law, sir, but I chose that life, sir, and I will live within the means of it, sir. No one can come saying that they can bribe this member, sir, or any of these members here, sir.
Agreed.
And I know, say, if the leader of the opposition too, sir, I will vote for him, sir. All 30 of us, sir, in here, I would say, sir. Because he was with us, sir, a long time. I canvassed for him in 2008, sir, spoke on his platform the first time he ran, sir. I can vote for all 30 in here, sir. So that is it, sir. You know, so we have that the application for an unexplained wealth order shall specify or describe the property in respect of which the order is sought, the person whom the recovery authority, the Attorney General, sir, thinks holds the property, and may be made without notice, sir. That is extremely important, sir, because you don't want a situation where somebody now can try and get rid of this unexplained wealth, sir. But the bill also covers that, because if that wealth is now, or asset property is intermingled with a third party, sir, joint ownership, sir, the part that belongs to the respondent, sir, is separated. So you can't go now and say that you're transferring the property, the land or the house to your best friend, sir, because this bill gives the authorities the power to go after that property, that aspect that belongs to the person who is being investigated. You can't go and put it in your spouse's name or your children's name, sir. We're going to come after you there too, sir. So the gaps are filled, sir, and are covered. The Act, the bill gives the authority for a financial institution to provide any customer information to the police that the institution has relating to the person specified in the application, sir. This is not the first piece of legislation that gives that power, sir. The anti-money laundering legislation also gives that power, but this continues it. And in fact, the fine for a financial institution saying how they're not giving the information is $500,000, sir. So I don't think any financial institution can say no. That is why, sir, when we heard of a case under the last administration, sir, where an individual who was the best friend of the first Prime Minister under that DLP regime, sir, and a pal of the second Prime Minister under that last DLP regime, sir, when we heard that the traditional Canadian financial institutions had said that he had to come and remove his money, sir, and then we heard that the money was in at the central bank, sir, that kind of thing made you crivel, sir, because that isn't the Barbados we are accustomed to. Why try to protect individuals who are involved in depriving 30,000 Barbadians of their investments, sir, that we as a government now trying to deal with and tackle and to give some kind of solace and financial redress to people, some of whom gone long dead, without getting back the money, sir. I mean, our society, sir, yes, has been said repeatedly today, is a Kadir society, sir. Everybody know everybody, connected. You could pick up the phone, call somebody, sir. But that is to the detriment in a lot of cases to the advancement and development of this society. And therefore, sir, we're all around the world, We see people being charged, whether they're politicians, prime ministers, presidents, top businessmen, whatever, being charged for corruption, for corrupt practices, going to jail, sir, for what they have done. The public of Barbados, who voted overwhelmingly, sir, for a change in culture on this and on other issues of accountability and transparency, sir, are entitled to say to this Parliament, you have to do something about what unfortunately crept in to the system of governance in the 10 years, 4 months between 2008 and May 2018, sir. And that is what this bill is about. Because, make no bones about it, sir, as has been said, and no better than the Honourable Member for St. Peter today, corrupt practices affects an economy and a society, sir. And, you know, we in opposition before May last year sought to tell the then government that when I was active, sir, in the International Bar Association, before I became an elected member of Parliament, the 12, 15 years before that, many a conference used to have as part of the discussion plate corruption in developing countries. And yes, the reluctance of international institutions to lend countries money to advance finance and funding, developmental funding to countries that were not strong in terms of their anti-corruption legislation. Because yes, those institutions, countries said, why lend country X money for it to go into the bank account of the political leaders? And I understand that, sir. Understood it perfectly. So we have to do what we have to do today, sir. And it can't be a question about whether, whenever we are no longer in government, whether some malicious person can come out after us, sir. I mean, if you're honest, you have nothing to hide, sir. You cannot fear that, sir. And as has been said, the issue of unexplained wealth, that part of the legislation is a key part of all of these
Member has 5
proceedings.
minutes more. 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. An application for an unexplained wealth order shall specify or describe the property in respect of which the order is sought and the person whom the recovery authority thinks holds the property. And the burden of proof, sir, is on the person being accused, because the judge, on an application of the recovery authority, may make an order requiring a person to provide a statement setting out the nature and extent of his interest in the property in respect of which the order is made, explaining how he obtained the property, including in particular any costs incurred in obtaining it, and setting out such other information in connection with the property as may be so specified. So, sir, I mean, it could have been that, as has been said, your grandfather left you this money in a will and you explained that and you're covered. But if you have obtained it through dishonest means, through bribery, sir, you're in trouble. And, sir, this again shows the intent of this government to raise the level by a far way of governance of this country, to be accountable, to be transparent, to try and rid this country as much as possible of corruption, both at the level of the political directorate, but also at the level of the departments of government, sir, the tax collection agencies, and we will succeed, sir. We must succeed for the benefit of our constituents, for the future of this country. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Thank you.